Once upon a time, there was a little handheld that could, and this is it. So, this is by a company called Trimui, or Trimui. There isn't on the packaging a dash in their name, but there is on the website. This thing was £25 off AliExpress, so you can imagine what we're getting. And you would be wrong! This is more akin to something like a BitBoy than it is to any of the usual Chinese handhelds we've got. So, on the box, got some nice gold embossing there, and a little glimpse of the unit, Pocket Games Player. Everything's written in decent English on the box as well. The Trimui Model S uses a 628 MHz high-speed processor, 2-inch LCD, built-in flash memory, blah blah blah. So, let's get it out. Packaging, really nice. In the box, you have nothing. Also, an instruction manual, a charging cable, which is USB-C, and it does charge good and quick, this thing. Oh, coming out, mate. Yeah, the other thing that came in the box is a SD card, micro SD card, which works pretty well. So before we have a look at the thing, it is like polycarbonate clear plastic. You can see the board inside, and it's got an aluminium back on it. You can get this in a couple of different colours. You can get it in black or red, and the only thing that's coloured is the circuit board inside it. I've got the green one because that's what I could get hold of. If we have a look at the unit, you've got these little micro switched shoulder buttons. It's pretty small as well. I've got pretty big hands, but it's a little bit bigger than like a credit card. I think they say that in their marketing materials as well. On the front it says Trimui Model S, and everything is micro switched, and my goodness, the controls are nice. Don't know how well you can hear that, but clicky buttons all round. So for the money, this thing already looks pretty good, but wait till we switch it on. My only main problem with this is this horrendous bright blue LED on the front, and it is as bad as it looks. The screen, however, really nice. It's in 4:3 rather than 16:9 like most of these things. It's super responsive as well. The screen does look a little bit blue on camera, but rest assured it is black in person. So it comes with this menu, which is super responsive. This one came in Chinese, but if you go to setting, the second option is language. I have updated this to the latest version of the firmware off their website. You can also change things like brightness, background music. Brightness goes all the way down. Refresh ROMs, factory reset, device info, and hardware test. First thing first, device info. Yeah, camera doesn't want to pick up this screen terribly well, but CPU is 717 MHz and 64 MB of RAM, and it is pretty good and quick. The SD card it came with is 16 gig as well, and that came with a load of ROMs preloaded on it. If you don't have an SD card in, you only have access to this game function here. Now, the game seems to use some sort of SDL library loader, and it comes with three things. It comes with Sea Dogs, which is Cyber Dogs, but this doesn't appear to work properly. It also comes with Digger, which is, it says 1984, I think, on it. Either way, that works pretty nicely. But the main thing it comes with is Open Tyrian, and Tyrian is one of my favourite games of all time. It's fantastic. So, let's have a quick look at Tyrian. If we hit the centre button, that is menu. That takes us back to the main menu if you hit it on one of the SDL games. But if you use that in a normal game, like an emulated one, it brings up things like volume settings and save and load states, which this has. So let's see if we can focus on Tyrian a little bit better here. There we go, start new game. One player arcade. Let's play Escape. Easy. Yeah, so Tyrian is a top-down shooter, but it's more like a little RPG than anything else. Because you have not only pickups, but money to upgrade your weapons, upgrade your shields, you can swap your ship out, and it's got a story, which is pretty good. And the graphics are fantastic. Open Tyrian was released quite a few years ago now, but it's been ported to just about everything under the sun. Yeah, and this runs fantastically well. It's absolutely lovely, which is a real surprise. This runs equally as well as it does on the PSP. which is really surprising on something this this small and cheap. Okay, that's enough Tyrion. Okay, so if you press menu in game, it brings up the actual in-game menu. Quit. Yep. Quit. Perfect. Okay, let's have a look at some of the ROMs on here. It also seems to support apps. If you go into File, there is an apps folder, but I couldn't find any formats that would run on this. It doesn't seem to like anything like EXEs. I tried some Linux files and it wasn't having any of that. The images folder literally contains the preview images for your games. Tell you what, let's turn it off and then turn it back on again. While we're looking at the unit, they've got this this little mono speaker here, which is pretty good for what it is. There's no information that I can find on what this is actually running as a back end. It might be some custom thing that they've built, might be some Java-based thing, might be the same thing BitBoy runs on. Honestly, don't know. Right, let's go retro game. Now, the big thing with this is it plays PlayStation games, PS1 games. So we will come to them in a minute. One of the last handhelds we looked at had a real problem loading MAME games because they ran too fast. But for this one, you can navigate through the menu using the arrows or the shoulder buttons. Let's pick something from the MAME list and have a look at it. So if we go over, you'll see you've got this preview of what's in the image folder of the same name. What have we got? 8-Man. Fatal Fury 3, let's go with that. Okay. Loads MAME games up pretty good and fast, and it even gives you this this progress bar while it's loading them into the RAM. Yeah, there we go. I think that is loaded now. Neo Geo. Some of the MAME games take a little bit of time to load up, but generally they're within a few seconds. So, select button. If we hit this, then it adds some coins. How to play? Yes, I know how to play Fatal Fury. Player select. Let's fight Blue Mary. Come on, into game. Come on, Terry. Let's do some moves. Yeah, so MAME games work incredibly well on this. They're basically perfect. And there's no screen tearing or graphical issues that I've come across in any of the ones I've tested. So as a little portable arcade machine, this thing's fantastic. So if we just hit menu now, here we go. We've got, not that the camera wants to pick it up, it's a little bit over bright, but on this little side menu we've got continue, save load and volume and exit game. So if we scroll down to exit game and quit out, it'll take us back to the main menu, which is excellent. As you'd expect, things like Neo Geo, Famicom, SNES games, Game Boy games all work pretty well. There is a bit of a problem with some of the Game Boy games, however. So I've loaded up John Rue's excellent Quest Arrest ROM on here, which is something we'll be looking at in a future video. But let's just pick a Game Boy game for now. Let's pick 1942. So Game Boy games have a little bit of an issue. I don't know if it's the emulator they're using or what, but anything with vertical scrolling on Game Boy Color or standard games seems to suffer a little bit badly with screen tearing. See if we can make 1942 do it. Come on, into focus. There we go. Okay, 1942's not too bad for it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how well you can hear the sound from this, but it's pretty good. Okay, so if we exit out of this, not only will it play normal Game Boy games, there's a reason I've loaded Quest Arrest on here, because it'll play this absolutely perfectly too. I did have a couple of crashes loading sort of homebrew and hacked ROMs on here. Quest Arrest, new game. Here we go. So if you don't know what Quest Arrest is, this is a brand new Game Boy game by an American developer, John Rue. I'll put a link to his Twitter in the description, and it is excellent, and this works perfectly fine. Why are you late, Detective Bennett? Okay, let's come out of that. So, the thing we all want to see. Normally, I'd play Streets of Rage 2 on one of these things, but unfortunately, when you open up the ROMs list, it takes an awful long time to scroll down to the bottom. I don't know where they've had these redumps from, but they seem to have American, Japanese and PAL ROMs on them as well. So let's have some PlayStation. Okay, so I loaded up the ROM files in a couple of different formats. I loaded up some bin and Q files, and I loaded up some ISO files. So Legacy of Kain here is an ISO file. These do not work. ISO files hang on booting up. However, bin and Q files work perfectly. So here's the Japanese bin and Q rip for Police Noughts, and this is a hacked version with an English translation. So you get this little booting up message at the bottom. Takes a couple of seconds to load, and then it goes straight into the cutscenes. So PS1 games, anything that's 2D works pretty well. Yes, which memory card to use? Yes, we've got memory card selection and everything else. Thank you for your patience. Yes, you can hear you've got the Japanese voice track working perfectly, as well as the English translation. And generally, these are excellent. Anything that is mostly 2D, so Police Noughts runs, as far as I can tell, as smoothly as it would do on an original PS1 with a mod chip. The unfortunate problem comes on 3D games. So, let's just wait for this Police Nought cutscene. Yeah, see, this runs absolutely lovely and smooth with no issues at all. Now, if we quit out of this, and I will load up Final Fantasy VII. Now, Final Fantasy VII, because there's so little 3D in it, is probably playable on this. I don't know how far you'd get into it before you found it frustrating. On the startup screens and things, it does cut a little bit off, but don't worry, that does not happen in game. So now we're into it. If we hit menu, hit load, we'll load one of my save states in from earlier. So this is right at the start of the game, just where you get off the train. It takes a minute to load. Right, let's turn the volume up a bit so you might be able to hear this better. The speaker's really, really good, which is such a surprise given that it's only a little mono speaker. So, moving about in the world, no problem at all. Really, really nice. You don't even get, when you emulate Final Fantasy VII on PC and you use anything like texture filtering, quite often you get sort of green lines where the images merge together because it's not all one background. So let's go into a fight here with these guys. Yep, there we go. We've got some hitching, and unfortunately, it does run a little bit slowly. But this was only released right at the tail end of 2020, so with any luck, there's going to be more firmware updates to it, and it should run a little bit better. So this would be perfectly playable, I think, if you can stand looking at it in sort of 15-20 frames a second. The processor in this thing is more than powerful enough to run it. But again, a little bit on the old slow side when it comes to rendering 3D stuff. Go on, Cloud, you've done it, mate. Yeah, so a little bit laggy through the menus, but generally alright. Especially the running about in the world stuff. No problem at all with frame rates, which is absolutely staggering for one of these little Chinese knockoff things. Anyway, this is the only thing Trimui produce as well. They don't appear to make anything else. The real problem comes with full 3D games, so let's see if we can get into Crash Bandicoot in a timely fashion. Booting up again takes a little while. Let's get through the menu stuff. Yeah, you can see that that anti-piracy warning's quite heavily cut off, as well as the first party notices and the Naughty Dog logo shortly afterwards. Yep, there we go. Okay, so Crash Bandicoot, he runs a little bit too slowly. So we can just get straight into this. Paused, yeah. Come on, mate, let's play. Insanity Beach. So, on the website, it also says this supports Dreamcast and PSP games. I assume that's something they're working on at the minute because I can't find any way to get them to run on this. I tried loading some PSP ISOs in, didn't have any of it. Yeah, so Crash Bandicoot on the PS1 is not really playable on this. That is about 4-5 frames a second. Just not worth the bother. And we died already. Yeah, so for playing 2D games, This is genuinely one of the best things I've ever used for it. I'm super surprised by it, given the price and everything else. The controls are lovely. It's a little bit small for my hands, but I don't think that could really be helped. It could do with being sort of the size of the FC3000, so about, I don't know, an inch or two bigger around the edges. As for holding up and how long it'd stay alive for, well, it's got a battery pack in it, charges via USB-C, which works really well, charges very quickly. Controls are lovely and they're micro switched, so they should last a long time. Overall then, this thing's great and I'm really surprised by it. It's a nice thing to come into 2021 with. Hopefully we'll see some more models from Trimui and some better firmware in the future. So nice to end on a nice thing for once.
Subscribe for more videos.
Take care. Bye bye.